Dzień dobry, Pani Butkutė.
Dzień dobry.
So, hello everybody. My name is Goda Raibytė. I'm a science journalist, and welcome to our panel discussion, Life After Science from Business to Private Sector, which I will be moderating today. And we will focus on different paths you can take after your scientific education. And for that, we have professionals from different fields to share their insights. And it's my great honor to introduce our super amazing panelists / scientists. First, it's Simona Liukaitytė-Suszczynska, optical laser systems engineer. Simona also worked with the Perseverance rover that successfully landed on Mars last month. And hey, Simona. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hey. And then we have Renata Butkutė, who works with the optoelectronic technologies in the Center for Physical Sciences and Technology. And Renata has a really interesting scientific career extending from astrophysics to semiconductors. And hey, Renata.
Hello everybody. Good evening for all, and you are welcome to this discussion.
Yeah, and then we have Paulius Saudargas, who used to research light-sensitive proteins and now is a member of the Lithuanian Parliament. Hey, Paulus.
Hello. Hello from Parliament. Direct.
Now I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the discussion itself, and each of the three panelists will give a short intro to their bio, and they will tell you about their life. And then we will start the discussion right afterwards. I encourage you all to ask questions, to share your insights. I have plenty of questions ready, but I think it will be much more interesting if you guys who are viewing the discussion also get involved. And without further ado, I invite Renata to share her bio.
Okay. I would like to share my screen in order to show in some details how looks my activity. Thank you, Goda, for introduction. And okay, where is my, okay. Thank you, Goda, for introduction. And in this case, I think, in my case, it would be better to title the discussion Science After Science, because in my life, the science is very related to the personal life. And now I would like to share you several activities of my scientific work and also work with students. So first, I am focused to the science. I am a technologist, and my target in life, in technology, is optoelectronics. I would like to know all things about how the visible and non-visible light is related to the electricity, and how we can combine them in device in order to live greener, safer, in more comfort zone, and also healthy. So here you can see my colleagues. We are situated in clean room. We are working with a line of equipment. My tool is demonstrated on the top on right, main tool of my work. It's a molecular beam epitaxy, or we can tell MBE. Also, we can say that MBE is million bucks equipment, and this equipment allows me to understand how the idea can be implemented in life, in our daily life. Okay, the second my activity is to transfer my knowledge to younger colleagues, to students. And having such possibilities in our clean room, I would like to invite all students to touch to the high technologies and also to create, to discover some new effects and to create new ideas. Also, it's very important in study skills, not only to produce some crystals, but also to share your knowledge to your colleague, to disseminate your knowledge. Okay, let's move to the third activity. It's sharing of ideas with our future students. So each summer, before the quarantine, we are organizing the school week with physics for younger people, for pupils, in order to know. They want to know more deeper in physics, or they want to have skills interdisciplinary, or perhaps they want to be the industrial men and women. So this short course allows us to introduce our students, our future students, to our possibilities, opportunities. And also in my life, I can't split the science and my personal life, because usually during the year, we have several conferences. So we are moving, we are talking with our colleagues from abroad, we are discussing, and also we are discussing not only about the science, we are discussing about our life too. So it's a short intro about my activities, general activities.
Thank you, Renata. I hope people are already preparing the questions for you.
Yeah, I'm waiting for questions, okay.
And now, Simona, talk about yourself a little bit.
Yeah, my path is more engineering after science, but let's start from the science. So I have finished for a first Bachelor of Physics. And in the second year, I have started to work in a laser research center as a volunteer after my studies, just to gather the experience, to have experience working on experimental physics, and really to apply what I was learning in the university, listening to the professors, apply myself. Then I continue my studies as a master's student for laser physics, and also still work in the laser research center in Vilnius. After this, I moved to France, where I finished my second master in optics and photonics, where I was still working on the same topics in lasers and optical system. It was light scattering on optical components. So then I stayed in the same laboratory where I did my master for my PhD studies for 3 years. And after my PhD, this is where my engineering career starts, not only in private, but also in public. So first of all, it was a French space agency, CNES, and my first project was really the famous Mars rover, Perseverance, which landed 1 month ago. And my task was to create the setup, optical setup, that allows to test one of the cameras that used on the rover. After this, I still stayed in French space agency, where I was working on a small size satellite, the hyperspectral imaging system, to make photos of the Earth. My next path, my next step was creating satellites in the company OHB, is the third company by size in Europe, creating satellites and space technologies, where I was working on the NMAP satellite. It's a satellite that is going to fly soon and gonna make the photos of the Earth in different wavelengths. And finally, my actual position that I'm very happy about this turn of my career is my optical engineer position in the R&D department in light conversion in Vilnius.
We will talk about it more, I'm sure, and I can hear the questions being born in the heads of our participants, hopefully. And now, last but not least, of course, Paulus.
Hello again. Thank you very much for inviting to speak at this conference, at this great event. And first of all, thank you for introducing us as professionals. That means that you introduced me also as a professionals, because our opposition do not think so. They think we are losers and not a professional. So I can go back to them and tell that at least someone thinks that there is some professionalism now in our politics. So here we go. While looking back upon my life, maybe two questions arise. Firstly, why physics? And secondly, why politics? Yes, I was always good in fundamental sciences, though I was also good at literature. I have asked my father for an advice once, and consequently, I have chosen to study physics. First of all, because at that time, the physical science and studies in Lithuania were at top level. And I believe and I see that it is still so. Highly developed experimental ground. I think it was post-Sovietic era, and we had a really good experimental ground, and our professors also were quite good. On the other hand, father told me this: you will understand what the world is made of. That was interesting in this thing. At the time, it seemed that serious studies promised me not only a career perspective, but a trained brain as well. It seemed that I will be able to apply this discipline anywhere. Therefore, I became a physicist and had a chance to do research in various labs, and as well as get practical experience abroad and use laser technology to analyze biological materials. In 2008, I defended my PhD thesis, Control of the Active Proton Pumping in Bacterial Rhodopsin. Probably all of you know this protein, photoactive protein. I would be lying if I say that I was not successful in research or science, or I have not enjoyed it. But there was lack of something always. Something about organizing, communication, and simple about people. Deep in my heart, I have always felt the calling to become a politician. I have always been partly involved in NGO sector, in youth organizations, and party activities. Eventually, I got involved so much that in 2008, I was elected to the parliament, and there my career as a scientist was finished, sadly. At the moment, I have started my fourth term of office at the Parliament of Lithuania, now serving as a deputy speaker of the parliament. I doubt that going back to the role of a scientist would be straightforward. There is something essential that I carry within me since the time when I was working on my dissertation. At that time, I was already involved in some party activities, as I told. My thesis leader, professor, once said, I see that you bloom when you involved in social activities, but at the moment you are working on this dissertation. So I will push you as much as I can so that you would succeed. If you become a professional in one field, it is likely that you will become a professional in other fields as well. Seemingly, the principles of professionalism are the same. You just have to be fully committed of what you do. Until now, if I succeed in something, I look backwards and I check myself. It seems that this principle never leaves me. If you truly reach a goal, it is only because you did work hard. It is because you did put your whole heart in it. To be honest, my entry to the politics was not sudden. I started from being an ordinary member in youth organizations and later took up some managing positions. I enrolled in the party of Lithuanian Christian Democrats, and for many years I was climbing the stairs of party hierarchy, from being youth section board member to becoming Vilnius city board member of the party, later the board member of the whole party, and eventually as the secretary general of the party and the deputy chairman of the party. At that moment, we merged two parties, Homeland Union and Lithuanian Christian Democrats, and subsequently we won the elections of 2008. It was a long and difficult process, and I took a direct part in it. Since I joined the party at the beginning of 2000, I have been participating in every election that was held in Lithuania. The election of Seimas, local elections, and European Parliament elections. And only in 2008, when the parties merged, I was elected to the parliament as the newly merged party candidate. Although my journey to the state level politics has taken almost a decade, I have started my career at the parliament equipped with some experience in youth and party politics, not as a complete newbie. At that point, I devoted myself to political career and terminated my journey as a scientist, sadly. Then why was I invited to speak at this event? Is it because I graduated in physics and worked as a scientist? No, I think not. It is because I have completely changed my career path. I had been a scientist physicist and I have become a politician. This transformation has given me some kind of meaning and knowledge. When students in the meetings ask me how to choose a career, where to study, for example, I answer, most important is to devote yourself to something, to study hard, and to become a professional of your sphere. It does not matter if it will take you 4, 8, or 10 years, even if it will take some time until you discover your true calling and will decide to follow it. Do not waste your time. Seek for knowledge, wisdom, and skills, train your mind, and broaden your attitude. In some fields, you have to start taking steps from early days to reach the peak. For example, chess. By the way, our Speaker of the Parliament is a master of chess and champion of chess. Or, for example, some other sports. However, life is not chess, and so many aspects of our life are way more difficult than education in different fields. So interdisciplinary experience allows you to exceed your expectations for certain fields. If we are talking about a specific education of a task with some strict guidance and rules, there is no doubt that it will require to have concentrated knowledge and skills. Yet to deal with broad, indefinite, and multidimensional matters, creativity, a wide attitude, and thinking out of the box is crucial, and experience from various fields is extremely helpful. The thing which I really miss from the time of my scientific journey is a chance to go deep into a subject without distractions. The luxury to peacefully investigate, study, analyze, and create. These days, I am living in an informational chaos where the top priority is not to react to the matter, because it is impossible to react to everything, but to draw up the priority. However, if there is a need, I have an ability to concentrate and deeply investigate the matter. That is what I have learned from physics. I can concentrate and understand certain questions which would be difficult for a non-professional. For example, finance, economics, or complex matters of other fields. You just need to find time for those matters, and physics teaches you not to avoid sophisticated and difficult topics. Another essential aspect that physics has taught me, and which I can apply in politics, is the truth. It is the principle that truth can be objective, not necessarily relative. In physics,
Paulus, I'm sorry, you are muted. Can you unmute yourself?
Oh, really? I'm sorry very much. For example, you plug in a TV in the socket, and it works. It works or it doesn't work. So it is obvious. It means that the whole constructed mechanism inside the TV is working, and you have the actual evidence. I turn the TV on and it works. I aim for these principles in politics, as there are too many empty words, promises, theories, and unclear visions. It is vital to take the obvious matters into the account. We cannot ignore something that is right in front of us. We must not allow demagoguery to outweigh the evident arguments. I have learned to trust in science and its principles. Even if you declare truth or theory sounds attractive or is gold-coated by your empty talks, it will be truthful and sensible only if it is published and by a respected journal or repeated by other labs, your experiments. It will only be sensible when you turn it on and it works. That is what science teaches you. Therefore, do not be afraid to choose your path and give everything you have to it. But stay put and open-minded. Do not be afraid to risk, to seek for novel paths and unexperienced horizons. Once again, I thank the organizers of this event for the invitation. I will gladly answer your questions if there are any.
Wow, what a speech! We can all see now a difference between between scientists and a politician.
We talk too much, yes, I know.
No, you don't talk too much. It was a beautiful speech. We already have one question for Paulus, and I'm again encouraging everybody to send us questions. You can do that if you're on our Zoom platform. You can send the questions in the chat, and I will ask our panelists these questions. As you can see, we have three really different people, and I believe they have a lot of things to share with you. So use this ability, guys. I'm really encouraging you again. And now, Renata, I have a question for you. You went from astrophysics to semiconductors. As an astrophysics fan myself, I have to ask, why didn't you stay in astrophysics?
Okay, thanks Goda for this question. I'm waited for this question. Is the usual question about my biography, and really it was a big pleasure for me to study astrophysics. I like mysterious things and processes. It pushed me to extend my knowledge. During the students' years, I was involved in several missions in Lithuanian teams for several missions for comet Halley observation in Uzbekistan and etc. And I like it very much, but I gave a priority all the time for practical experience. And the key factor switching me to the semiconductors was the discovery of superconductors. Since my astrophysics supervisor proposed me only theoretical work, I decided to try myself in technology. And it happens at the last year of my studies, and it was my start as a material science specialist. So now I'm working more than 30 years in technology. I had several short-term and long-term PhD and postdoc visits to the abroad institutions, and all those technological skills I learned, I transferred to our clean room. So it was very interesting for me, and I'm fascinated until now. But I'm still a fan of astrophysics, and I follow all the events in universe as well in journals. There are many apps allowing us to make observation on the movement of celestial bodies and gas in our galaxy. And I like it, and I am, how to say, I know it, and I follow this movements of astrophysics or in astrophysics. So it's a hobby.
Well, that's beautiful, and I can relate. We have 2 questions for our panelists, but before that, I have a question for Simona, because she's been silent for a while now. Simona, why did you decide to go into the private sector?
Well, actually, there are many reasons why I did this. And I would say that first of all, it was passion for an experimental and applied physics. And also passion to see the instant result and impact of my work. When you work in the private sector, you create some instrument and you immediately see the impact. You can even measure the impact, for example, by the amount of money that company and the country can receive from your work, and also impact for humanity. Like, for example, even working in private, you can participate in the projects like create satellites or create perseverance. So this is also very important. Also, what I really liked about working in the private sector, that I could 100% apply the knowledge that I got during my studies, also during my PhD studies. All this work, all these skills, I haven't lost, actually. I really could use all my knowledge in the private sector. And also many different opportunities in the private. You can work as an optical lasers engineer in different applications. For example, from optical systems that I created myself in space technologies to the optical systems that are applied in medicine. Like I'm working now in research and development department in light conversion in a company. And what I really like about private sector, it's also that the work is very dynamic, it's very challenging, and with a lot of financial resources. Actually, when you have some ideas, you can easily get the money fast and do it quite. And actually, there is always constant learning. So the technologies in lasers and opticals are developing all the time. Actually, every year there are new things to learn. There are new ways that things are being done in our field. So actually, you're constantly learning in order to keep creating the value for the company and for the products. And what I really like, for example, in R&D in the company, that you need to create the instrument that, for example, it might be the instrument that it's very technically complicated, and also this instrument must be functional for a few years and, for example, are used daily by your client, and still you need to create something that is reliable, that is repetitive, and doesn't need a lot of service engineering, for example, intervention. So you really do something that has a big impact, and you can really see how your work is changing your products and changing the path of the company. And even if you don't work in research and development department in the company, for example, if you work in the product department where you create the products that are the same, actually you can still be creative, because you still have to optimize the process, you have to automate, you have to think, for example, how to create the instrument and make that the human error would be impact of human error would be reduced. You need to think how to simplify the production line, how to make everything optimized, how to produce more but faster. So what I really like about the private sector, that actually all people can find their role in this sector. They can work in the research and development department, they can work also in the production, and they can also find a way how to, for example, use the organizing skills to improve the company. So I would say that was the main reasons why I went to the private sector, and I really enjoy working here.
Beautiful. Paulus, we have a question for you from the audience. The question is as follows. It is blamed that well-educated people do not enter politics in general. I see you as an exception. How much physics helped or shaped your political career? And what is your advice to people, youngsters, who would like to enter politics from science? A beautiful question, by the way.
Beautiful. Where this beauty lies in that we don't have educated people in the parliament. I do not agree with that. We have quite educated people in the parliament from very different fields, from physics to music, and it's I really like seeing that a lot of we're very bright, and we have doctors, we have professors, and I don't know why you say that we don't have educated people in politics. I really disagree. But the second part of the question, how my physical career shaped me as a politician, well, I think I answered it a little bit. I can only maybe add to it that I'm not afraid of numbers, because sometimes we need to deal with numbers in politics. We have economy, we have budget, we have all the finances, and there are a lot of numbers, and people who are not used with numbers are afraid sometimes, and I'm not, because I studied this math and physics, and simple example for we have now the COVID pandemic in the world, and I think some governments misjudged the potential risk, and they did not apply the quarantine regime or something, because they could not predict what will happen in the next few weeks. And why they could not predict? They don't understand what an exponential growth is. They think everything goes linearly. And in the world, as a physics, I understand that there is no such a function. Linear is very rare in the world. Everywhere exponential things are around. And for example, we study like system dynamics. We know what the critical points is when we have, for example, 2008 financial crisis. Why it happened? No one predicted that it will happen, because we have a critical point when we reach this point and everything collapses. The system gets in different shape of the function. So understanding of these things, I think helps in politics also.
Well, I must add that probably this pandemic was a surprise to the general public, but not to scientists, especially who work with the viruses, because it's been predicted to happen since 2005, I guess, the first scientific research papers. But Paulus, now a question from me, not from the audience, maybe to add or correct the previous question. Don't you think that politicians who are, well, so to say, less educated, that they are more visible and audible in the public sector? Because we hear, while maybe other politicians who are educated, they are working silently, and others are screaming that they are against the vaccines, that the virus don't exist, or encouraging people.
We have few, yes, we have.
And we hear about them more often. So maybe that's some kind of a smokescreen that people tend to think, oh, so politicians are like that. They just scream some nonsense, and that is not based on science.
Well, we need to get used to this phenomena in the whole world. Nobody likes politicians. Nobody likes government. It's a common thing, I think. And of course, the press, mass media looks for these kind of personalities which talk loudly and different, sometimes stupid things, as you mentioned, like anti-vaxxers. We have few in the parliament, so to say. So of course they are showing this, and when people come to visit the parliament, for example, children and students, we talk to them. I show them and I explain that the most of the job is done silently in some committees and commissions and working groups, and not in the plenary hall. You have a circus in plenary hall. It's a show, only show. Don't believe in that. We just go to act in some theater, and this is not our job what you see on television. It's only acting, and it's everywhere. Where you have parliament, it's from the word parler, and you talk and talk loudly and talk much and talk sometimes even very curious and even stupid things. It happens, and we see it on TV.
As in life, probably. And another question, it's for everyone, but I don't know if you guys want to answer this. I will just read the question because it's just more about the system, and I don't know if you're familiar with the topic. So Mohammed says, I have a question. What is Lithuania's plan to adopt students and researchers from outside the European Union and covering them with the same social and insurance systems like citizens? As I see, Lithuania is decreasing in its population. If we look at Germany, for example, they adopt people from outside the European Union to sustain the same power of their country. I don't know if you guys know anything about this or would like to add something.
I can add only that in Faculty of Physics, we have a study program in English, so light engineering. I'm heading the study program, and all people from all the world can arrive and can study in this program for European countries, and Lithuanian students is free from charge, but for other countries, so you must pay for it. But after the learning, after finishing of the study program, you can work in our laser corporations, laser industry in Lithuania, because this program is focused to the priority skills, priority areas in which specialized Lithuania. We have many distinguished physics in laser physics, so we are focusing to this direction, and we are inviting all young people to study and to learn from our significant or well-known physicists. So that's all.
Paulus, maybe
about the citizen and etc. So I can't comment. Just you have a possibility. Yeah.
Maybe Paulus has something to add, as he's the member of the parliament.
Well, I can add something. Really, I don't agree that our population is decreasing dramatically, because we had a wave of immigration when we entered the EU, but now together with Brexit and together with pandemics, we have a lot of coming back, and it's not a very big problem of decreasing population right now in Lithuania. That the numbers shows this, but still the question is from maybe from the other side. It's I think on the level of European Union as a whole. But I worked in for example in labs in the Netherlands, in Denmark. I saw people from the whole world, everywhere. I don't think it's very hard to get in and have some part in some scientific research or something. If you have skills, if you have grades, you can really do this. I don't think it's a big problem right now.
Renata, a question for you from the audience as well. What is your advice to people who are doing theoretical physics to continue to do as a long-term career, or following your path to find an opportunity also to do experimental practical physics?
Okay, if you selected the theoretical simulation case in physics, you always are welcome to technological labs in order to understand what are the mechanisms and technological peculiarities. So the door is not closed for all. And usually I propose to young people, to students, to PhD students, to master students, to visit all the labs in order to extend your knowledge, because only understanding all the procedure from technology to experience to theory, simulation and modeling until device prototype fabrication, you can feel more, more comfortable, because all those processes needs some knowledge in order, for example, to model or to simulate theoretical structure of quantum derivatives, quantum wells and quantum dots. You need to know, not perhaps very deeply, but the main processes, technological processes, in order to take some parameters from technology or from experience, in order to make a real thing, not a simulation for simulation. So you are welcome. You can contact me and we will discuss what is interesting for you, and we can visit the labs and you can make a choice for future work. Yeah.
Thank you for your questions, and I again encourage and ask you to ask more questions for our panelists, since they are here already. And another question from the audience goes to Simona. How much do you feel private sector can help in funding academic research and build partnership and support, material and financial, at PhD level research studies that is dependent on government funding?
Well, actually, I think the business can do really a lot, and in many different ways. For example, well, actually, for the country and for the academia world, the business is really necessary, because all this money goes finally back to the academia by taxes that companies are paid. And this is, for example, this is what we have in Lithuania. And also very often the problems that comes from the business can be solved by academia. So actually, for example, especially when I was working in France, I've seen many examples of collaboration between the private sector and academia. So when the private sector meets some problem and then they need research, they go to the lab and then they also give the money to the lab. There is a lot of collaboration between the private and the public. For example, when I was doing my PhD, so my PhD also was partially funded by a private. I already did a PhD that was together, all the research was actually paid by French space agency. So you really have a lot, the business really have a lot of impact. And also when I even was working in Lithuania as a student in Laser Research Center, we had also projects together with Lithuanian lasers companies, with few of them, because they had issues with their products and the engineers could not solve it without the researchers who can get also money for the research and answer the problems that private actually raises. So this collaboration, I would say, for both private and academia is really necessary. And for the country, for the developing of Lithuania, I think this working on both, working on a private and working on academia to helping, for example, that the country should help both the private and both academia, that the country really would develop and we could attract more investitions into our country. For example, if you want to have investitions from abroad, you need to have a specialist. If you need to have specialists, you need to have a strong academia that prepare them, and then the strong private to employ them. So actually both work together.
Mm-hmm. Another question for you, Simona, from the audience as well. What pros and cons do you see in working in a huge company like Light Conversion compared to working in a small company, let's say Optoman or any other?
Well, Optoman, as I understand now, is more like a startup. So when you start to work in this kind of company, you have a very, very big impact on the company, on the growth of the company, the way it grows. So, and also your career path, for example, can be really fast, can be linear with the growing of the company. So you can easily become like the head of department, for example. When you go to the bigger company like Light Conversion is not a huge company, actually. I have worked in way bigger companies before, but Light Conversion, for example, is the size of the company that you can still have impact. Like what you do every day has a huge impact for the company itself and the final product at the end. And also, for example, what is good when you are a young professional, that you start your career from companies like Light Conversion, so you can learn a lot and very fast from your colleagues and from the company itself, because the processes have been already developed. So you can really take this knowledge fast, and then later you can apply in the company itself, inside, for example, in a new department, in another department, or you can change a career path and go somewhere else and apply it somewhere else. So actually you can really, from this kind of companies like Light Conversion, you can learn a lot. And in general, Light Conversion is one of the best companies in Lithuania, speaking in general, not only about lasers. So there are many colleagues who are PhDs, who are already experienced. It's a company that works for 30 years already in the field. So there are many problems that are already solved, and problems, the technical one, like going to the laser level, like the instrument level, and also organizing the work, optimizing the process, and so on. So that would be, I think that would be my answer.
Thank you. And we have a question from the audience to Renata. What are the possibilities for postgraduate studies combined with private sector at Vilnius University in the field of optoelectronics?
Okay, so you always have a possibility to do a bachelor thesis, master thesis, also PhD thesis, and postdoctoral visit, let's say, in the industrial sector. But in this case, you must study in Vilnius University, if you are a bachelor student, as a bachelor, master, or PhD student, and you must have a consulting person. In the case of postdoc, if you have a student Marie Curie fellowship for this, you can come and you can make investigation in private sector, but also you must have a consulting person from university or from physical center for technology and sciences. So in both cases you must have a consulting person.
Thank you. Another question from the audience to Simona. Do you encourage academic life at the private sector, and how does it look like? Example, Light Conversion.
Well, I really, can you repeat please the question?
Do you encourage academic life at the private sector, and how does it look like?
Well, it looks like you are trying to create a new product. So actually, what is really similar to the academia, that you must solve the problems that might have not been solved yet, or in the country, or in the private field. So very often, actually, you need to be creative. You need to find the new ways. And very often, actually, even in R&D departments, you have a scientific publications. Just in my case, for example, I could not make the publications because I was working in the space technology, so you do not share this knowledge, you do not share the know-how. But actually working in R&D, it's really interesting, and this environment is quite close to the academia, but with a lot of financial resources that sometimes you lack in academia, actually. So this is a very important point, and the work itself is very dynamic, because when you have some problems to solve, you need to do it quite fast. And what is really interesting for me, for example, in a private, that also you always need to think how it's gonna work, and how much it's gonna cost. And also you need to it needs to be flexible. The objects used very often needs to be small and cheap enough to be able to sell this kind of things. So you really have you really sometimes you have a different problems than in academia, but you still have very, very interesting, and you can really be creative in this field, I would say.
Thank you, Simona. And I'm waiting for more questions from the audience. And while I'm doing this, I have a question for Paulus, since he's been silent for quite a while. Can you give us an example from your work where having a physics degree actually helped you to make a better decision, like the most recent one? You are on mute.
Thank you. Thank you for this question. Okay, an example. Let's say tax system in Lithuania. I had an idea, and this idea came to my mind only because I studied physics. Maybe you know, everyone, the logistics function, how it looks like. Logistics goes like that and rises and then slowly goes like in linear shape. So I thought, why our tax system is not of this type of function? We can invent the progressive tax, not like having steps and percents, but having a function. And I really put this law in the parliament, and I don't know if the colleagues will support, but I will have this kind of discussion when the time comes. What everyone thinks about this idea? Maybe we can calculate our taxes, not only having some small steps of tax system, but calculating it from the function, for example, the logistical one. So one example, please.
Thank you. And a question for Renata. You stayed in the academia. Why did you decide to stay there? Because I believe you received many offers from the private sector as well to go into the into business and so on. But why did you decide to stay? You are on mute as well. That's like a usual phrase now during the pandemic. You're on mute, or I can't hear you. So.
Okay, sorry. So academia, it means two different types of activity. The first is science, as I said, and I decided to act or to work in science because it's a very fascinating thing. You always must be online, you always must be creative, as Simona said, and comparing science with a private sector, I have a possibility to make a mistake, because my mistakes or negative results show me the area where I can't apply for devices. Technological areas where I can't to create or to apply in devices or in system. So you always very carefully make experience, growth, technological experiences, and you have how to say time for analysis, because we are paid for our negative results and for our positive results. We have more freedom in order to dream, to create ideas, to check the ideas, to test the devices. So our negative result is also the result, and we are not so stressed. On the other hand, not all private sector industrial partners have a R&D division. So, or you just go for engineering, for making some devices, no creation, no ideas, no dreaming, and etc. or if you have some ideas and you want, for example, to join light conversion, to join integrated optics, you must all the time to think about money, because technology is a very expensive thing, and here we have freedom in science. On the other hand, we always have a possibility to collaborate with our partners. So we have relations with XPLA, we have relations with integrated optics, we have relations with light conversion. So sometimes we just make a service for them because the operations are well known, and it's quicker and faster to do in our clean room than for our partners to ask somewhere in Germany. So it's very quick, how to say, procedure to obtain the result. On the other hand, we also can propose the scientific research, and we collaborate, and we are happy. Perhaps sometimes it's a long way, but we are motivated to do this, and we are motivated to collaborate and to be a partner for our high-tech industry companies.
Thank you, Renata. And now a question from the audience to Simona. Do you believe that working in private sector limits your creativity and freedom when compared to the academia?
Well, I personally do not feel limited. Well, I was seriously very lucky because I always had a very good environment. The new ideas, they were always encouraged. And when you work in a private, very often you really have a big impact. And for example, you really work a lot on optimizing the processes, on automation. So you really see how, for example, your ideas 1 month can speed up the processes next month. So you can have a big impact. And another thing, what is really important that when you work in a private sector, that you can choose different area of application. For example, if you are optical or laser engineer, you can choose different fields. And myself, for example, I have finished my PhD 5 years ago, and this is the 4th project I'm working at the moment. I'm working now on medical applications. So I really feel like the private sector gives you a lot of freedom to choose the size of the company, the department inside the company, the country you can work, the field of the application that your skills can be applied. So for me, I really always, in the private, I always felt free and independent to go from one thing to another thing. And very often in the companies inside, you can choose the position, you can change the departments. It's also very encouraged because for the company, it's also important that you yourself, you would be satisfied. So it also works like this. It actually always works on the both sides.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And another question for everyone, actually. If you had one short advice to give us, what would it be? Maybe let's start with Paulus, then Simona, then Renata.
Well, as I told in my speech, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to choose and to change. And when you choose, so give it all what you have to this field, and don't be afraid to change your path and your career. And we have now, the world is changing so fast, that faster than ourselves. So we need to adapt to this dramatical changes every day. For example, if we do not have this pandemic situation, I don't think we would apply these technologies to our everyday life. Our parliament needed to go to this type of work, not in the parliament hall, but through computers, through internet, and it works. We adapted to work and to live like this. So one of the examples. So don't be afraid of the changing world and of changing yourself.
Yes, because it's always changing, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Simona.
Internet and it works. We adapted to work and to live like
I am
this.
sorry, Marzena, can you
Examples,
turn off
so
your,
don't be afraid of the changing
put
well
yourself
and
on mute,
changing
so
yourself.
you can hear thank you so much, Simona.
Well, I think the changes naturally is a part of your life.
Works.
Marzena, again, some technical probably issues.
Sorry, I'm muting it.
Okay, okay, thank you. Simona, continue.
Well, I think the changes in general is a natural part of the life, and especially when you work in this kind of fields that change really fast in the technology. So you should be really able to adapt quickly and learn all the time. Like learning for engineers in the private sector is like, it's a daily task. Actually, it's not something that happens from time to time, and you never stop learning the new things and absorbing the new information.
Thank you, Renata.
Okay, I agree with Simona and Paulus, and my advice is to try yourself in various ambiences, sciences, teams, and topics. You must answer to yourself sincerely, what do you like, or maybe what you don't really like, and don't be afraid to ask your colleagues, don't be afraid to say to your supervisor that you don't like this topic and you want to switch to another. So you are free. You have many possibilities to change your activity until you will find the most interesting, and then you will work hardly in order to become the best or single specialist in your area. So then perhaps you will be happy and perhaps you will be successful. And this conference is a very good platform to start to find your success recipe. So you can do this. Okay.
Beautiful advice. I hope people in the audience can use them in the future. And we have another question for everybody asked on our YouTube platform. Maybe then we will start with Paulus, then Simona, then Renata again. And the question goes as follows: how much influence on your life after science did simple luck, being in the right place and time, and good connections? Or do you think that these aspects have had no influence at all? Paulus, maybe?
Well, you need to create your luck. Without work, there is no luck, I think, and every second is luck. We are lucky that we are still in this life. So this is our luck, but we need to work and we need to choose every second. We choose what to do. And I think not spending time is very important for especially for you, for the students, for your youngsters, that you really don't lose the opportunities, don't lose your time, and work, choose, think, look for it, and you will succeed. There is no such thing as luck in the life. God don't play this chess or what? Not the chess.
Yeah, like Einstein. Yeah. Simona?
Well, I agree with Paulus. I actually also don't believe much in luck. What I believe is the hard work and be at the right place in the right time. It's also related to what you're doing. So, for example, for me, it was very important, and also the good connections was really important. But the good connections, not in the term of, for example, the family line, but the good connections that you are working in the laboratory for 3 years as a student, and then naturally you know many people, and then thanks to them you can know even more researchers, for example, abroad, like it happened to me. And thanks to this, I could do my PhD in France. So I think it's really important. But this good connections and luck you need to create yourself by being very initiative and work a lot, and also be brave. Go to the new places, meet people, speak with them, speak about what you want, what you would like to do. And also don't be afraid to change something if you need to. be very open for new things, and always know that when you change the sector, when you change the country, when you change the field, there will be always some people around you who will be able to help for you if you need it, and if you ask.
Very scientific answer, Renata.
Okay, I think I am optimist and always think that right place and right moment is very important to you. So it is like a starting point. If you found the company or team where you can share your ideas, it's a good point. But then you must to work very hardly. You must always communicate with your colleagues in order to share your ideas, answers, analysis of results, discussion is okay or not. And I think that luck is only 5%, but very hard work is, I think, 150%, because working you can achieve very good and very nice things.
Thank you all. And a question from the audience to Paulus. Is there a plan to enhance the stipend for PhD studies that can attract more students to research in Lithuania?
Well, I think for students and scientists from abroad EU, it's possible to get a visa and permit to live in Lithuania for 1 year, as far as I know. This is a possibility, and we have more and more programs in universities taught in English language, as far as I know, and we get more involved in exchange programs between universities. In Vilnius University, I think we have even a separate platform where you can read all the info about this. I don't know about special money. I'm not working in this particular field of education, so maybe I cannot particularly answer the question about scholarships.
Okay, understandable.
Perhaps I could add, because in Lithuania we have a strong Ukrainian foundation, and several master students or bachelor students can receive the stipendium from this society in order to study in Vilnius University or in Lithuania in general. So if you are Ukrainian, you can test this possibility or to learn in some documents.
Thank you, Renata, for adding this up. And a question for Simona from the audience. How does working in R&D sector affect your personal life? And is it hard to separate work from your leisure time?
Well, I would say it used to be difficult to separate my work from my leisure time before, but I'm looking for a balance, and I think I'm not far away from finding it. And I really encourage everyone to look for balance between your work and your leisure, because the work in R&D and everywhere else, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So in order to work well, you need to rest well. So I think it's really important for every human being to rest enough in order to be creative and be effective at work.
And another question from the audience, and maybe the final question, because it's very practical, and it will be good to end the discussion, unless the audience has more questions. But a question from our YouTube. Hello and greetings from Philippines. I would like to ask you, what suggestion or tips can you give students who are having a hard time to concentrate on their studies? Thank you. It's a very good question. I think it can be applicable to everybody. And maybe, again, let's start with Paulus, then Simona, then Renata.
Why me all the time? I already forgot what what the studies are, and of course all the time it's hard to concentrate. For me, it's very hard to concentrate in the plenary hall to vote for the all the decisions that we are having. But I must do this. So you need to say to yourself that you just must. If you want to succeed, if you want to achieve something, you just need to study and concentrate. And I know it's hard. We had in my life, I had in studying physics, I had such a difficult disciplines that even reading one page was very difficult, and I didn't understand anything. But slowly you read one page by another, and maybe you start seeing something and start understanding something, and it starts to be more easy. And I want to add to Simona's answer about leisure time. And sometimes I say that we don't have, as a politicians, any leisure time. We only work, and we need to enjoy it as and feel good by being on duty all the time, 24/7. So maybe this is the recipe of being happy. Just work and be happy.
As I said, a very practical question and practical answers. Simona.
Well, I have two advices that actually I have tried myself. So first of all, that it really helps to study efficiently and successfully is to study together with your master or bachelor mates. So to study in a group, and it really helps because by explaining to someone else, you really understand what you don't understand, and then you learn. And we really did it a lot, and that was very successful. We were the best students, the one who were studying together. And another, I would say, really important one is while you're studying, to find a way to apply your studies in the work. You can, as a student, you can always find some place, some platform to work already in your specialization. So, or you can go to private and work, for example, part-time there, or you can go to the laboratory and work as a student there. And then when you will learn, when you will study, actually, you will understand what kind of knowledge exactly you need and how the knowledge that you are learning while reading and sitting next to the table really helps you to create something, to build, to solve the real engineer problems. So for me, it was a real, I would say, the big kick. It was that I was partially working in the lab, so I really advise it to every student to do it already in the bachelor and as early as possible, of course, while balancing the studies and work.
Beautiful, Renata.
Okay, my advice would be, if you want to extend your knowledge, you must be active in the lectures. So interactive lectures is one of the basics in order to learn day by day, step by step. So second is you must work hardly, and you must work also in the area how to transfer your theoretical knowledge to applications, to practice. You must also learn different skills, practical skills, improve, develop some of them. Also, you must be a good in systemization of knowledge. There is no systemic knowledge, there is no knowledge at all, I would say. Analysis of results, analysis of mistakes is very important. Also, sometimes the intuition is a very good thing, especially in technology. You must all the time observe your equipment, your results, and sometimes your intuition shows you the way how you can be successful and happy in your work, let's say.
That's very beautiful. And as you can all see, we have 3 different examples what you can do with your life after your scientific studies. You can either stay in the academia as Renata did, or go into the private sector as Simona did, or go and become a politician and be a member of your country's or Lithuania's parliament as Paulus did, or God knows, you can do whatever you want. The possibilities are, as you can see, unlimited if you work hard, focus, and ask the right questions. And thank you for our beautiful panelists again, and thank you for your questions. I received a lot of, as a journalist, a lot of interesting information, which I will use in my work in the future. I hope others received interesting information and applicable and practical information as well. And thank you all. It was a pleasure hosting this discussion. And I believe if you have more questions to our beautiful panelists, you can ask them privately. And have a beautiful day.
Yeah, thank you, and good luck for all, for young students, for young researchers, and thank you for invitation, and good luck for Simona and Paulus too in your activities. Be happy and successful. Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Goda. Thank you, Simona, Renata, and everyone. Thanks for watching.
And me too. I would like to thank you for everyone, for the panelists and also for the participants.
Yeah, thank you, and